Thank you everyone for joining us. For those that don't know me, my name is Ethan Cantrell. I'm the events manager here at Atlanta Contemporary. And we're chatting with Marc Brotherton today to pick his brain and talk about his art and just enjoy the day and have a good time. So I do want to start off just kind of giving a little background of Marc. Marc is currently an artist in resident here at Atlanta Contemporary. He regularly exhibits his work in solo and group exhibitions at museums, art centers, and art fairs throughout the U.S. Marc has exhibited at White Columns, Causey Contemporary Fine Art, George Billis Gallery, the Brooklyn Arts Council, the Museum of Contemporary Art of Georgia, Hathaway Gallery, Day and Night Projects, Sandler Hudson Gallery, and Kiang Gallery. I'm not sure if I pronounced that one correctly, but A for effort.
Pretty close. Kiang, yeah.
Kiang, okay, cool.
Kiang, yeah.
More than now. Marc received his Master's of Fine Arts in Painting and Drawing from the City University of New York at Brooklyn College in New York, and his BFA from the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque. He's currently been focusing on his project Kill Screen paintings, is best thought about as a metaphor. Brotherton plays with images and language that reference the digital screen. Subtle nuance and radical shifts in paint application move throughout his work. He attempts to activate the viewer utilizing a painting platform. Marc, thank you for joining us today. And we're excited to see what you've been up to since we last spoke.
Well, thank you, Ethan. And thank you to the Atlanta Contemporary. And thank you to the viewers who have joined us today. So what I'm going to do is my name is Marc Brotherton. Ethan did a very nice job of introducing me. Thank you, Ethan. And I'm just going to go through the paintings and kind of slow down and show different areas and kind of talk a little bit. And then when I'm finished showing you the paintings, I thought maybe if you guys have questions, we'll take some questions and I can hopefully answer them to your satisfaction. So yes, as Ethan mentioned, I have been working on this kill screen paintings for the last about 5, close to 6 years now. And it's been a very fruitful experience, and I've produced quite a few paintings. So the newest batch of paintings that I have made, these are all basically, all since March 15th or so, whenever the first lockdown, if you will, the first quarantine of the COVID experience. So you'll see themes of that running through this work. It gets in there, and so I don't really want to give too much away. So we'll just start with some new paintings. So I'm going to flip the camera around here, and we will start with this painting. So this is a painting that is 48 by 36 inches. And it's acrylic on canvas, and I'll just kind of get up a little closer. So there's a lot of different painting applications, brush, kind of a dyeing or a staining, and then some kind of hard edge geometry. I use acrylic paint, both in the tube form and in the spray paint form. So to get different kind of effects. And there's always a bit of texture involved with my painting. So this is actually something that has been placed almost like a collage onto the, onto the canvas. And basically that came from that, which was sort of cut out. Try to get a side view, you can see it a little bit better. So I like to play around with people's expectations of what paint looks like on a canvas. And then I would like to have different examples of those ways in which paint can be applied, just for visual interest. And then also it gives kind of a space or a quality that can be sort of shifted back and forth between up close and maybe far away, or different kinds of focal points, if you will, different kinds of spaces involved. So a lot of times the idea of a screen, actually we're using a screen right now to even view this, so it's ubiquitous, it's part of our everyday life. And I just like to play around with those notions. Obviously, this is not a screen. This is a painting, but there's not a lot that separates that canvas from an actual screen. It uses an X and a Y coordinate, the way it's produced, same way a screen would be using X and Y coordinates. Let me get a backup of this one. This is a different painting. This is a multiple canvas painting. There's 9 canvases here of different sizes, 2 different sizes. The ones in the center are 9 by 12, and then the ones going around these are 20 by 16. And so what I did was I was thinking of kind of a gridded format, not unlike a tic-tac-toe or something like that. And then I sort of played my own game with it. Let me get in a little closer. This is a little different from some of my work. This one's really popping out with the lighting. You can really see the underpainting. In real life, it doesn't quite show as highly contrasted as this. Let me back up a little bit. Maybe, yeah, it's a little more hidden, but anyway, there is definitely some imagery in there. And then, of course, if I come in closer, you get to see some of the texture that's on top. So I like to play around with, showing different spaces and layering of materials to give kind of a rich textural and unique experience. And there's a lot of process involved, not a whole lot of planning. This one was planned out. Obviously, I painted the skeleton behind it. Well, maybe it's not obvious, but I definitely planned out the skeleton on top but behind it. Then I produced a series of layering paint on top, which was a lot more random and kind of uncontrolled. And I like the juxtaposition between this one, which has more of a raw canvas on the background. Of course, it has some of the same kind of imagery. It's kind of I don't know, I don't really want to give it a name, but it's sort of a natural, maybe landscape, like a topography, or it could be seen as like under a microscope or something. But then I put these really hard edge abstractions on top. So this one is where the hard edge, it's not abstraction, hard edge geometry is on top. And this one would be where the hard edge abstraction is underneath. So there's kind of a playing of layering. And then each one is a little bit different from the next, but they are similar, as you can see. And then overall, this piece is, I think, 72 by 65 or something like that. Sizes are variable. These are all acrylic on canvas. And these are all, similar again, similar motif on top, but the background's a little different, so it gives it a kind of a different flavor. These paints are really nice. Right now, the lighting is sort of optimal. It's really popping out these colors. Depending on the time of day and where the light is, the colors change. And as you live with art, you probably notice things like that. These reds, oranges, yellows, and blues are basically made with fluorescent paint. So they have a really bright color, particularly in the optimal natural lighting. Actually, you can actually look at these under blue light, blue light, black light, but I've never tried that. So that could be an added bonus. And here's another painting. So you can see I've been using this motif, this kind of ziggurat, Tetris, kind of pyramidical, maybe even you could think of it as an arcade game kind of shape. I've used it for many different purposes. Sometimes you could think of it as maybe a stronghold or a safe place, or maybe you could think of it also as a aggressive shape that could perhaps shoot, or you could think of tanks, the Atari game Tanks or something like that. Anyway, I was thinking of round 2. Here we are. You can pretty much come to your own conclusions what round 2 is, but it's very timely. And I thought of this as kind of a point in our time today where we're sort of in between 2 major, structures of power where now we have to come to we're at round 2 now, so we're gonna have to start all over again. Also a reference to maybe video games. And I'm gonna I'll get a little closer so you can see some of the background here. So this is on a natural canvas. You can kind of see that lighter paint applications, and then hard edge geometry, and then painted text. Let me get in here a little bit. And then I also like to kind of play with the flat and the deep space. And then in the middle here, there's this kind of allusion to space. Is it popping out? Is it going in? So it breaks up that flat black space. I'm going to move on to this next painting here. I felt that this painting was very timely. I tried to incorporate the feeling of what was going on in the political climate. So you can see that there's a bomb and a save disc, and then there's a higher and highest level of color, yellow, orange, and red. And then, of course, we've got the traditional shapes that these look like they could be firing at one another or something like that. So this is sort of like a, trying to capture the feeling and the relevance of what's happening today. Yeah, and again, this lighting is actually pretty good. You're really getting the pop of the fluorescent colors. So this painting is also large as well as the last one. It's 48 by 36 inches, a little bit bigger. And then I'll move over to this next painting here. Again, kind of dealing with this different space, and I'm kind of changing up the picture plane, having 2 major shifts in, I guess, like a screen type of space, if you will. And this one has a little bit of texture that's kind of different than the rest. You can see in the black, there's a lot of kind of pock marks, and it almost looks like cratering or folding or rippling, kind of a skin or something, just to help remind you that this is not a screen, even though it's referenced kind of a screen. And then we got these kind of screen-like colors in the background, or I shouldn't say in the background, but in these strips, as Barnett Newman might call them, zips. And then there's this abrupt shift here between planes. And then I've added little embellishments on the edges to kind of keep your eye moving and referencing my own language. So this is really kind of a thin paint application, and then it gets much thicker over here in the black. And you can see these. I'm going to try to get a side view here. The light's pretty, yeah, there we go. The light is actually kind of blowing out some of the color here. The color is a little more rich. So when I get back farther, I think we'll probably be able to pull that up better. I'll just get it behind here. I don't do a whole lot of horizontals. To me, the reference for a horizontal would be like if you're moving your screen horizontally, and I can do that, it might actually work better. Or you're holding it vertically, which we usually hold our phones vertically. So you can think of it that way as well. Again, these are paintings, and I want you to remember that they're paintings, but we're just using the language of screen to help, activate you guys, the viewer. And here's 2 smaller paintings. Not really identical, but pretty close. The background is really the biggest difference here. These are 9 by 12. And the background is very spontaneous. And then, of course, the yellow, orange, and red with the white is very controlled. So I like that kind of combination between control and spontaneity. I made a total of 4 of these. I just have 2 left. These are the 2 I have left. One of them went to the auction at Hambidge, which placed. And here's another painting. This has some nice texture and some, I like how the red's really popping in this light behind. This has a lot of transparent texture to it, sort of semi-opaque or translucent, if you will. And then I put something on top. So this is acrylic that has been glued down on top, again, much like a collage. And these can also, these kind of remind me of stickers or something. The way they're painted, there's kind of a slightly raised edge to them. So I like the way that things sort of lay on top versus lay below, which is something a screen really can't do. But again, it's sort of referencing the screen. And really, again, that's just sort of to get people interested in looking. And then I provide them something else, hopefully.
I have a question for you, Mark, as we go in. So I love that you, of course, reference Barnett Newman's Zip, but I couldn't stop thinking about Pong. Did you play a lot of Pong when you were a kid? Because particularly the piece with the bomb and the disc, it just reminds me of the Pong bar, and the boop, boop. It just... Yes, it does. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, when I was probably in 5th or 6th grade, the Atari, I don't remember, it's 2600, 3600, whatever it was called, came out. And it was the one after Pong, but you could still play the original Pong. We played all those games. And as a matter of fact, when I was about, okay, so I'm going to tell you something about the sort of the earlier part of my aesthetic, I guess, if you will, is when I was in 5th grade, we got a brand new Apple computer in our school. And it was before you could use a mouse. They didn't have a graphic user interface. You had to command everything in command line. And so we learned how to plot colors and draw in a grid on the computer screen. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I guess secretly that's always been with me. And then as I gotten older in the last, 10 years or so, I've realized that that's kind of where it all came from. That's kind of where it all started. So as a person matures and ages, we all have these moments in our lives that, are memorable for whatever reason. They stick in our minds, and sometimes we forget them, but we still act on them. And so that's more of a psychology behind some of this work. But obviously there is some obviousness to it. So I'm not like hiding anything either.
I love that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's a great question.
Yeah, when I saw that one that you just mentioned, Veronica, it reminded me of Kaboom, which was an early Atari game.
Yeah.
And
so.
But I wanted to say the other painting with the sort of obscured skulls, that's really interesting. I saw something that looked like a face, but then when you went in, I could see it was a skull. It was I like that it's multi-dimensional, but not. It looks like a hologram almost. It's very cool. Really good.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and
these colors are really popping right now on the screen, more so perhaps in the camera, but they look really very high contrast, which they are, but maybe not. The light is having an impact, is what I'm trying to say. Really popping these colors.
Well, that's a good thing. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about painting is that different times of day, different things, you'll notice things differently. And it's all about natural light and how it falls on the canvas. Yeah, and hi, Chrissy. It's so great to see you. Chrissy and I went to high school together.
my God.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I used to work in the gallery at the school. We had a wonderful gallery. It was so neat.
Yeah.
And then I was going to come. I think
Andy
and I came to one of your shows. Are you way over on the west side right now?
You're talking about my gallery?
Yeah.
Yeah, the gallery, it was in a couple different locations. It was in Brooklyn for a while, and then they moved to the Lower East Side.
Oh,
And they're kind of in between spaces at the moment, kind of in the financial district on Fulton Street right at the moment.
cool. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming. Great to see you.
Awesome.
Hey, Mark. So this is actually my first time seeing your work beyond the Temporary Arts Center. I saw those giant pieces there. So this is the first time I've heard you speak about your stuff. And I'm just curious, you mentioned the screen, but what other digital motifs do you explore that are relevant to the paintings?
Well, I look at a lot of language, the way they might talk about code, or even like sometimes I'll put text in there that might reference like maybe you can't connect or you have to reload or something like that. And honestly, it goes more beyond even the screen, because if you think of it, and I'll answer this real quickly because I know we got to wrap it up. But if you think of these shapes, they're ancient shapes. This shape has been around forever. All cultures experience something like this shape. We would call it maybe a ziggurat. But also the Bauhaus. When I learned about the Bauhaus and how they used graphs to draw and things, it went back into more of an art historical connection. So I really feel like there's a connection between the past and then hopefully, moving into the future. So anytime we talk about technology, we always think about things like the future or something beneficial or something. So I want those connections, really. I guess that's kind of how I see it.
Thank you, Mark, for letting us in your
studio
and telling us about your practice.
Thank you all for coming. And if anyone would ever like to support me, I've got work on my website, and most things are for purchase. So if you're interested, I will be happy to hear more. So, thank you so much, and have a great time, and enjoy the rest of your studio visits, folks.
Thanks, Mark.
Great to see everybody.